What's going on, y'all? The biggest night we have had across our two channels, the biggest night for the podcast, the biggest week for the podcast, because guess what? We have Mr. Jazz Hands. Hey, right there, right down below us. Welcome in, Tony B.
Hey, what's up, everybody? What's going on, Josh and Mike? Thank you guys so much for having me on the podcast.
I mean, is it normal to be fanboying even though we've met like 100 times in person before?
Mike, I fanboy every time I see you.
Oh,
hey, this is my first time, man.
Yeah, I'm very excited. So
listen, last week, Tony, when me and Josh talked about it and we got everything ironed out, he was like, "Bro, do I wear a suit? Do I wear a button-up shirt? What do I wear?"
Black
I was like,
"That's what you wear."
Just a black T-shirt, bro." Like,
I know. I didn't get the memo, so I've got the black Hawaiian.
That's right.
And I'm like upside down and right side up. So who knows?
I have a similar shirt like that, Josh. I call it the comment shirt. So I wear it about once every 3 or 4 months because I know I'll get good. Like if I'm having like a video that I'm not sure I'm going to get good engagement on, I'll wear that pineapple shirt because it's like a guaranteed extra 10% worth of comments. Like, are you trying to tell us something? What's going on with that shirt? So yeah. You got the comment shirt on tonight.
Jenny B starts getting private messages like, "What's going on with you guys?"
Yeah, I know we don't jump into the chat much, but I see a Jenny B out there. I just want to say the last time I ran into this Jenny B, I think she's a fan of mine. Last time I ran into this Jenny B, I got her digits, but then when I called it up, it wasn't a real number. So Jenny B, if you're in the chat, I don't know what you're trying to pull. I need the real digits, please.
I know we all missed out on her last night, but she's probably looking for her Tumblr, Tony. That's probably what.
That's right. The Lido Loca, the Tumblr. Yeah.
So speaking of that, Naughty and I we were in a panic this week because
whoa. That's not Naughty and I know how to spell Sir Joshua.
Yes, this is Tony from Lido.
Yeah,
for a little bit anyway.
Lido.
If you didn't catch it, Josh spelled it with an A, but it was called.
Oh, really? Yeah, Lido, like the Lido deck. Have you ever been on a cruise ship, man? Lido Loca. Come on.
Yeah, I mean,
it's all in good fun. We picked a little bit at it, and I was like, well, let's just ask Tony the proper pronunciation and spelling for his name.
Yeah, we weren't gonna, we're unfiltered here, so we weren't gonna try and dodge it. It's like, hey, it is what it is. Yeah. We misspelled it. We apologize.
Look, I've said it many times before. We created a cruising YouTube channel, and we just picked something very obscure to try to get people to remember that I almost don't say properly most of the time. But yes, it's La, and then the cruise word Lido, like the Lido deck, and then Loca, L-O-C-A. So I talked about it earlier in the week. I just jammed Lido inside of La Vida Loca. So
that's why I thought it was funny and ironic, because you did touch base on how you got called out, like, hey, do you not know this and that? And I'm like, well, that's perfect because it accidentally got spelled wrong, and I was like, that's kind of like fitting for the topic conversation when he did the show the other day. So
sometimes when I'm announcing my own show, I say La Lido Loca. Like, I'll say it fast, and it sounds like there's an A there, and you can tell when it's grating on me because my introduction gets slower and I pronounce it pretty sternly. But so it's an honest mistake and one that doesn't bother me. So
see, that was my problem because I tried to use Pahonics. And being from the South, you drop that O to Lita.
Yeah.
So, I used Pahonics, and I should have just, as much as I've watched your channel, I should have known better.
I mean, Josh, it is right behind
I beg for your forgiveness, kind sir. I beg for your forgiveness.
Forgiveness granted. It's all good.
So before we get into this willy-nilly, I just want to talk to the folks in the chat. So obviously you guys know how we roll. We don't really engage in the chat that much. Our moderators will engage with you, but we're going to do it a little different because this is a special time here that we have with Tony, and we know everyone has questions. So this is what we're going to do. The first 30 to 40 minutes are going to be free verse like we normally do. We're just going to chat. We're going to talk, so you get to know Tony a little more than what you get to know normally of Tony, and then after that, we'll open up the floor to questions. Now, obviously, we're not going to get to everyone. Tony's time is valuable, just like everyone else's. But we'll do our best. And we have our
Wait, what do you mean he's not going to sit here till midnight tonight? You got to be kidding me, right?
I mean, hey, I talked to him before, and I'll slip you some super chats.
Yeah, Jenny dropped me off, and I don't think she's coming back for me. So I think maybe
Awesome.
we got plenty of time.
Staying at the office tonight.
That's right.
But yeah, so the last half of this, we'll definitely open the floor to questions. And if you have more questions for Tony, I would encourage you to go to his live stream and ask them if you get missed during tonight's live stream. So now we got all that out of the way, and obviously, I have a lot of questions. I don't know, Naughty knows you personally, so
have questions. It doesn't matter. Listen, curiosity killed the cat, right? Like, you can sit down with this guy and have a 5-hour conversation and still have questions, because the dude knowledge is power with Tony B, right? So I explained this to everybody on my live stream before, but I went on a group cruise, Lido Loca group cruise, and Tony took time out of his day when I was fresh and new in my channel to sit down with me and go over a few things with the computer and with everything else and how he does certain things. And I love it because when he talks about things in his show, he's like, I'm voice activated. So if you want to have a conversation with me, you got to come up to me and have that conversation, right? I'm just not going to be like, hey, you're a stranger, how are you? Like, no, come up to me, let's start the conversation, and we'll have the conversation. And that's the great thing with him, is like, I love anytime I have a question, I'll shoot him a message, be like, hey, Tony, what do you think about this? And he'll get right back to me. And it's great because I live right around the corner, but I'm not just going to show up to his house.
Yeah, that's good. Listen, we I've had a couple people show up to my house, but it's never been Mike. So that's probably one of the reasons I'm on the show tonight. So
yeah, like if I were to show up at the house randomly with some Publix chicken, yeah, we might eat, but afterwards he might be like, yeah, this guy's a little weird. He's just showing up.
You had to bring up the Publix chicken. We don't have a Publix here, but we had one when we were living in Tennessee. Those chicken fingers, oh my Lord. With some Sweet Baby Ray's barbecue sauce on it. Now, come on.
What part of Tennessee did you live in, Josh?
Clarksville, Tennessee. So we were about 45 minutes north of Nashville.
Yep, I lived 28 years in Nashville, Tennessee. I moved there when I was 14. I lived there until I was in my 40s, and I've spent many a time in Clarksville, Tennessee. Some of my kids live in Paducah, Kentucky, so I've traveled that Interstate 24 countless times to see the youngins. So. Yeah,
it is an amazing and wonderful place. So Clarksville's pretty cookie cutter, but Nashville's amazing.
Yeah.
You probably, like me, enjoyed Nashville when you before it blew up. Yeah. Now it's a little too touristy, I think, but
it's tough. I don't know how many years, Jenny B will have to tell me. I don't know how many years we've been gone. I think we left in 2013. First time I ever moved for a job, and I didn't really love moving for the job, but I thought it was the right thing at the right time. And I don't think I always appreciated Nashville, but I don't really think I appreciated it as much as until after I left. But now when I go back, to your point, and I'm going in a few weeks to go to a show, I'm going back to Nashville, but every time I go back, it has changed. I don't know what life would be like if I'd have stayed there, but it's definitely a different town than it was back in 1985 or whatever when I first got there.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, they've taken West End and the Gulch, and it's like, it's beautiful. It really is. And
I couldn't tell you. I ain't never been there.
I was wondering why you were a Pred head. Hey, that's us, man. We went there when they were giving away a lot of military tickets, and we were still in. We used to have the Preds come to our unit, and they would do their preseason training. We would put them through all of our what we called green platoon stuff, and got to meet Tutu and Sullivan, a lot of these old school Preds.
Yeah.
And but we were there when they beat the Ducks, and that was the loudest. I swear there were cars with alarms going off outside of the Bridgestone, because when they scored that empty net goal, oh my Lord, that place, the roof come off.
Yeah.
You know where it's loud at right now? Philadelphia, because we're up 10-2. Let's go.
I was born in the Midwest. I spent a few years. I was born in Indiana, and I lived in Illinois when I was a kid, and ice hockey was a big thing then. Of course, when I moved to Nashville, we didn't have any professional sports teams, But in 98, when they got the Predators, what Nashville did really well is they made it really inexpensive to go see those games. Like, to your point, giving out tickets to service people. And then I could get into the upper deck for $10. And so I think that first season, I probably saw 20 games. And if you want to fall in love with ice hockey, watch it from the top of the arena, because you really start to understand kind of the poetry of hockey, why it's really a cool sport. And we followed it forever. And then, of course, I got my kids into it. And now I live just, I don't know where the arena is in Tampa. Mike probably knows that, but Tampa's had a ton of success. And it was super ironic last night. I hadn't been keeping up when opening day was, but last night I turned on the TV and there's Champa Bay, the Lightning, playing the Preds in the very first game of the season. So it was cool. I had the live stream scheduled last night, but very rarely do I struggle to want to, leave the house. But I was like, maybe, Jenny's not feeling good. Maybe I'm not feeling good. I want to watch the end of this game. But
I can contest, man. Hockey's Tony's sport. We were on the Margaritaville at Sea, and Tony B had the suite, but hockey was on, so we were all crowded up in the suite watching
we were watching some hockey.
Nothing wrong with that. Yeah, and Nashville is great. Like cell block 303 up in the upper deck.
Yeah.
And that's where like Vince Gill has season tickets, and he sits up there with 303.
Oh, that's wild.
Because that's where it's at.
Vince never out that far into the stands. I've seen him in the boxes and stuff. But it's hockey in Nashville is really neat. We don't have to talk about sports the whole time, but early in the run there in Nashville, 98 or whatever, was a time when Mario Lemieux came out of retirement to skate with Jaromir Jagr in Pittsburgh. And so I made the pilgrimage up to Pittsburgh to watch the Penguins play. Like, for me, the Predators is my number one team, but I love some of those original teams. Like, I love to watch the Blackhawks play. I love to watch, Pittsburgh play. I love to watch Philly play. And so I went, and it was such a contrast because, Pittsburgh's like hard-nosed, blue collar, concrete arena that had been there forever, the Mellow Arena, and they were serious about their hockey, which it didn't diminish what I liked about Nashville hockey. But Nashville hockey is not only is it great hockey, but it's also like an event, with country music bands and celebrities. And so it's pretty cool. And then I might be getting hooked into soccer. Like, I've been watching all these soccer documentaries, and apparently Florida's got like a pretty successful soccer team. Two of them, actually, the world's greatest soccer players in Miami, and the team in Orlando is like almost top of the ranking. So I like those sports that don't stop a lot. I played baseball as a kid, but man, it's tough. Unless I go to a baseball stadium, it's tough to watch baseball on TV.
I'm not a huge soccer fan, but like having the opportunity to go see Messi is like if you could go in go back and watch Pele. I mean, you got to go watch that guy if you get an opportunity. Yeah. My son played soccer in high school, and it gave me a new look at it because, I mean, high school soccer is intense.
It's weird. I've had a few moments like that in my life. I was able to see Gretzky in his last season. He came to Nashville with the Rangers. I got to see so I've got a little bit of a background in classical music. I got to see Luciano Pavarotti, in Nashville, in that arena, just right there in front of me, blowing the roof off the place. So I've had a few great opportunities like that, and I completely agree with you. If I had a chance to go to Miami and see Messi run around, I would definitely do it.
Especially against, I hate to admit it, but like the pro players in the States are not Premier League or La Liga or whatever. So that's one of the things with, pulling Messi over. And of course, that team in Miami is owned by David Beckham, who was one of the first international stars to play for MLS. I guess it was like 2008 when they brought him out to LA. So maybe those guys are trying to improve American soccer, but yeah, to your point, it's not the same as on the international stage. But what's wild is, man, they take that soccer more serious than, I've seen some pretty serious sports fans here, but man, that national, football, national soccer in countries like the UK or in Spain, they're ready to kill each other, and they're ready to kill the players. It's a wild. It is.
You ain't finding it any more vicious than over in Europe. But let's make a day out of it, man. We can go see Messi, and we can take the new Bright Line. What's your thoughts on that, dude? That Bright Line train.
I watched the video on the Bright Line. So essentially, you pick it up in Orlando. You can go down to Miami. If you want to do it right, it looks like it's pretty expensive. I certainly don't like driving in Miami. So the idea of parking in Orlando and spending a day in Miami off the train, it's got some appeal to it. But I still think they've got I think a lot of people use it. I think a lot of people might prefer to fly into Orlando than fly into Miami. I think people might like to fly into Orlando and spend a day or two at the theme parks and then maybe go on a cruise out of Miami. But I would take it just for the ride, but it's not super inexpensive to take it. And
no, I think the cheapest ticket's like $80.
Yeah, and then if you want to do anything like, have a bigger seat, or if you want to do any of the amenities, they have like a nice lounge with food and stuff like that. If you want to VIP it goes up like $200 or $300, $400 just a train ride to Miami.
Yeah,
it's a 4 or 5 hour drive for us, which is fine, but I don't know if they would connect it all the way to Tampa, that might make it more appealing.
Well, that's phase 3. Yeah. They're supposed to be doing that. So if they do that, then I'll definitely go and I'll hop on it just for fun, just to take the trip over.
Yeah.
But I think it's a little insane. I priced it out last week, and for a round trip in first class, it was like $290.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I still got to drive 2 hours to Orlando.
Get over here.
I'm not doing that.
I'm excited about that for, like I've told you before, we work in Tampa quite a bit because that's where our higher headquarters is at. Live in Virginia Beach now, but, if me and Chastity get down there, being able to jump on the Brightline, because we haven't been to Disney in a long time, haven't been to Universal. And, that's where our traveling adventure started, was with Disney. And we definitely want to get back down there. So that's going to be a huge boon for the economy, for people to be able to jet back and forth to those locations.
For sure.
So, sports was one of the things I wanted to get into with you, and you just mentioned it. So that's awesome. So someone asked, and I know I said we weren't going to get into the chat, but this was a question that I had. So I want to go ahead and just throw it out there. So CME Traveling, they asked, Tony, could you tell us about where you grew up at? Thank you for inspiring so many of us.
Yeah, so I was born in Indianapolis, Indiana. I lived there till I was like maybe 5 years old. So my dad worked for a company called Cummins Diesel. So they make engines for, it's still it's a big international company. They make, engines for diesel trucks. They make generators. And he was working in Indianapolis, and then he had an opportunity to go in sales in Bloomington, Illinois. So we moved to Bloomington, Illinois. And then while we were in Illinois, my family's from West Virginia, right? They're West Virginia coal miners, and my grandfather was a mine inspector. My uncle had worked in the mines. And about the time that after a few years of living in Illinois, my grandfather endeavored to buy a coal mine. So they bought a coal mine in Southwest Virginia. They lived in Big Stone Gap, Virginia. And they were also buying 3 trucks, I think it was, and they wanted my dad to run the Big B Trucking Company. And so he left Cummins. We went to Southwest Virginia to a 1-stoplight town called Castlewood, Virginia. And I was probably maybe in the 3rd or 4th grade when we moved over there. We tried our hand at coal mining for a while. It didn't work out. And my dad took a job back at Cummins again in Bristol, Virginia. At that point, Bristol's a cool town. It straddles 2 states. There's the state street right in the middle. Not half, but part of the town is in Virginia. The other part is in Tennessee. And I think I did 7th, 8th, and part of the 9th grade in Bristol. And then my dad got the call to be the branch manager at Cummins in Nashville. And so I moved to Nashville when I was 14, about the second half of my 9th grade year. And then I lived there all the way until I was 43 or 44. Again, I think it was back in 2013 when we moved. I think it was in 2013 when we moved. I guess I was 42 at the time. And then we moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, and we did a few years in Charlotte. And then we realized that we could work from anywhere, and we wanted to live this kind of lifestyle that we have now. We wanted to move somewhere where we could be near. So, both of my wife, Jenny B, and myself, we lost our dads along the way. My dad passed over 30 years ago, and our moms are still around. So we wanted to be able to come and live near Jenny B's mom, and then try to entice my mom to come. My mom lives in East Tennessee, and we're still trying to entice her to come down. So we moved back to where Jenny had grown up and gone to high school. Jenny's from Long Island, New York, but moved to this town, Spring Hill, Florida, when she was 15. I pulled her out of here when she was 30. And we returned, and the exciting thing was where we live, we have pretty close access to 5 cruise ports, Miami being the furthest away at 5 hours. So we moved to Florida so that we could do more cruising, and we moved right in January of 2020. And we did not get to do a lot of cruising the first couple of years that we were in Florida because of the shutdown. But yeah, that's it. Wow, I'd never tried to encapsulate all my moves, but from being born in Indiana to now living in Spring Hill, Florida, lived in some cool places. Of course, Nashville, I feel like it's my hometown. I lived there for so long and had so many life experiences there. But it's the weirdest thing as you start to progress through life. Places are important and they help shape your identity and give you purpose, but it's really the people that you do life with. I think that is the thing. And so, Jenny B and I, we've been rocking this thing for 20 years. We're coming close to 21 years. We were both married before, and she won't give me credit for the previous marriage. I think I should get the years because I did the time, but she won't give me that credit. But we're pretty much at that place in life that as long as we're together somewhere, that's good enough. And but we've been enjoying living in Florida. 3 of our kids now live in Florida. We still have 3 kids that don't live in Florida, and maybe they will someday. And like I said, we're trying to entice my mom to come down. So Florida might be the last state I ever live in. I don't know.
So I know what you're going to say, Naughty. Because
like, why you got to lie to the people? Why didn't you just tell them you moved to Spring Hill, Florida because I lived here?
Well, I can tell you this story. One of the
coolest neighbor.
Probably the first person that ever recognized me and recognized Jenny B, not on a cruise ship in the state of Florida, was Mike.
Inside a Walmart. Walmart, nonetheless, right?
We were in the Walmart buying creamer for the coffee, and here comes this guy. Like, oh my gosh, it's Lido Loca, and I was like, oh wow, that's wild. It's the first time I'd ever gotten recognized in a grocery store. So that was pretty cool. I've since been recognized in a couple grocery stores, but that was the very first. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah, in a Walmart, nonetheless. I had a cut off muscle shirt on with stains all over it because I was just getting done work.
Yeah.
And I was on the phone and I was like, yo, I got to go. Click. And I was like, oh, Tony and Joe and Raleigh Loca. Right in the dairy section. I had no filter at that point. Yeah. I really thought I was meeting like the creme de la creme. And I was, because here we are years later and still having a great friendship with it. So,
yeah. That's cool.
But yeah, Kurt wanted to ask that question because Kurt is originally from West Virginia. So curiosity killed the cat, right? So he wanted to know a little bit about the coal life, because where Kurt's from is back in the holler in the coal field, the coal mine.
So my grandfather, I'm not sure where their story begins, my grandfather and my grandmother, but my dad was born in Gary, West Virginia, which is a coal mining town. And there's some famous people from there. Homer Hickman is a big rocket scientist that did a lot with NASA. He's from that. If you ever saw the movie The Rocket Boys, or the book was called The Rocket Boys, I think it's called October Sky or something like that. That's about where my dad came from, which is a really interesting story. My grandparents lived in Big Stone Gap, Virginia for a long time, which is around that Southern Virginia coal mining area. And then eventually they settled back in Bluefield. I still have a lot of family in Charleston, West Virginia on my dad's side. My mom's folks are from Middle Tennessee. So like Cookville, Baxter, that kind of thing. They have a whole different kind of story. But so really both sides of my family come from right there. In the South, as we define the South in Southern Virginia and East and West and Middle Tennessee. So
there's no TH on it. It's the South.
That's right. So I guess, I'm a Midwestern kid, but I've got a lot of Southern sensibilities. And then I also have a great connection to the Northeast. So maybe I'm a little chameleon that way. I love, I'm a big fan of a lot of cultures. And I feel like one of the greatest gifts we have is just being able to meet different people and learn stuff from different people. And I've moved around enough to get some of that experience, which has been great.
Yeah, it's funny how you fanboy over some people sometimes. And it's like, so my wife is a big fan of Derek Levasseur, he was on Big Brother, but he also has the podcast, the Murder Podcast, and she listens to it all the time. So I'm walking through the Nashville airport of all places, and excuse me, I go, I'm like, hey, I know that guy. And I'm staring at him, and he's wearing an ID T-shirt, and I'm like, oh, that's Derek Levasseur. So I walk over, and I couldn't even remember his name because I was like, and I'm not even that big a fan. It's my wife that's the big fan. So I'm trying to get her on FaceTime. I get her on FaceTime so she can see Derek, and she's like speechless to see him. And
that might have been I'm a Big Brother fan. That was probably one of the better seasons when him and Cody made a run and won that game. I love all those kind of reality strategy type games, but it was, those guys were good.
You learn a lot about people.
Yeah.
So I know the very first cruise you went on went out of Mobile.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
What was it about that cruise that got you to this? What happened? One specific moment on that cruise where you were like, I can actually do this, even though I know you started it for family to have memories and all that stuff, right? Like we've had this conversation before. Yeah. But when you put those videos out there, do you have that one defining moment in mind that came to you and said, you know what, Jenny, we can do this. Like this can be something we do every day.
So you're correct on the motivation for making the videos is to have a record so that our kids could watch something, right? So when we got together, our kids were young. This year, I think we figured out they're between 22 and 22 and 32. And so when we got together, I think they were between like 1 and 12 or something like that. And so we had a bunch of little kids that we raised and got them into some sort of, them being able to do life without us. And we were looking at each other going, all we've really known is being together with kids. What are we going to do? And Jenny B said, we're going to go on a cruise and, we're going to love it. And I'm like, well, you've never been on a cruise. We don't know if we're going to love it or not. And so we started watching cruising videos. And a lot of that was Sea Cruisers and Mr. Traveler, Cruise Tips TV, Morgan's Very Unofficial Travel Guides. I think those were the big hitters that we saw. We used to watch Sharon at Sea when, like for some reason they came up on my feed one day and I fell in love with Sharon at Sea. And I'm very excited that they're friends, good friends of ours now. And it was like, let's see if we can make these videos. I didn't know anything about cameras. I didn't know anything about, much. And I had been making some videos because I got caught up in that craze of where you open up like Loot Crate or something like that and do an unboxing video. And this was popping around the same time that Casey Neistat was making vlogs. And, I was like, oh, I want to see if I can do this, but I didn't really know how to do any of it. So we went on that first cruise with the goal of just making some cruise vlogs. And we came home and we made the cruise vlogs and we created a Facebook community and a few people started watching those vlogs and we started making connections to people. I was able to post those vlogs like on our sailing for the fantasy and people were like, oh, I remember seeing you on the ship, and they started watching the videos and that kind of thing. But pretty quick, I think there were only 4 videos there. Pretty quick, there was nothing else to make, but immediately I enjoyed this idea of people watching what I made. I've always said this, one of the reasons you sing songs, there's a few reasons, but, when you perform songs publicly, it's because you want somebody to hear you sing them. A lot of times when you write something and you aspire to get it published, it's because you want people to read it. And I certainly think that one of the reasons that we make our daily videos or our weekly videos or whatever video is because we would like people to watch them. And so part of it, just from an ego perspective, it was great. People liked our videos. This is very exciting. I made something. We made something together that people like. And, people would say, I like it. And then some people would say that we hate it. And it's like, look, we've moved people out there. People like it and hate it. And then it's funny, you get that little dopamine hit, like, oh, I want to do more of this. And one thing I noticed in the cruising space at this time is there were these huge Facebook groups where people would have really sincere, legit questions, and then they would just get eviscerated by people that were just jerks, right? Yeah. And so I had 2 goals in mind. Let's create a safe space where we'll moderate a community where we can bring people into the fold and we can actually see if we can get people helped when it comes to cruising. And we put a lot of effort into the Lido Loca Facebook group because there wasn't really any other Facebook groups out there other than these mega, brand specific Carnival Royal Facebook groups. And then at the same time, I'm like, I want to make more videos. And so in one of those big carnival groups, there was a lot of questions about Faster to the Fun. And I was like, oh, we did Faster to the Fun. We can make a video about Faster to the Fun. We made a video about Faster to the Fun. People responded to it. It was like, we were getting hundreds of views or 50 views on our, vlogs. And then all of a sudden, the Faster to the Fun got 10,000 views. And it was like, wow, this is amazing. 10,000 people found value in this. And it's like, maybe we can help other people out. And that kind of started. I mean, we didn't really go daily or anything for a while, but the desire to make content that people connected to that helped people out was it. And then as time went on, and, I think we got monetized off of that Faster to the Fun video. We probably had 100 or 200 subscribers. But back then, all you had to do was have 10,000 views on your channel and you could get monetized. And so I think we were monetized. We're making like 80 cents a day or $2 a day sometimes. Like that was a big day. There were months, you had to wait like 3 or 4 months until your monetization met $100 and then you got paid out. It's like, wow, we got paid $100 because somebody watched the video. So very early on, I'm a compartmentalized kind of guy. I worked in IT. So I started seeing these things in these different lanes. And I realized that, and I tried to start small business before, like I was Amazon reseller. I kind of burned out on corporate world. I'd worked IT for a Fortune 500. And I'm like, maybe this is the path. Maybe we can start a small business here and we can make a business around, entertaining and informing people and be able to travel at the same time. So we started making some plans. How do we achieve those goals? And then I just started trying to learn everything I could about YouTube and, what it meant to, work with YouTube. And to me, the wildest thing that clicked for me early that I think was really helpful is essentially the opportunity exists for everybody there on YouTube. And basically, Google, who owns YouTube, is saying, hey, man, we would like to partner with you. And anytime you want to make a video that's advertiser friendly, we'll try to show it to people. And when we show it to people, we'll stick some ads in it. And if they watch those ads, we'll pay you. And you can do that whenever you want. And that's the way the conversation played out in my brain. Like you hear all this different rhetoric about, oh, you're doing this, you're doing that. To me, it's always been as simple as there is a platform out there that says, hey, man, can you give us some content and we'll give you some money and you can meet all your other goals, entertaining, educating, building community, and changing your life. And all that stuff kind of hit us early, like year 1, year 2, that kind of thing. And we just kept working our 9 to 5s, and then we would work another 8 or 10 hours a day on YouTube. And eventually we got to the place where we didn't need the 9 to 5 anymore. So I feel very lucky, I work really hard, and I hopefully some of my success comes off of that hard work. But I also feel very fortunate at the same time that, timing's everything sometimes. And, when the pandemic started, there wasn't a lot of people processing through what was going on in the news. And, I tried to bring a new way to do the news and process through that pandemic stuff. And we kind of got a lot of viewership that way. So, it's timing, it's hard work. You kind of make your own opportunities. But I think it was having a clear vision of saying we could change our lives and we could do work that we're very passionate about by, working at it. And so, I don't know. That's probably the short story long, but that's kind of how we got from going on a cruise in Mobile on a broken cruise ship to making, to sitting here tonight,
So let me pull on that thread just a little bit further because, we talk a lot and, we've had some prior podcasts where we talked about how YouTube works. And, there are folks in the space that want to grow faster than others, and everybody wants to have that one big video, right? And sometimes that's all it takes.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just a short or whatever. But what we've always said is it's about the content and it's about the watch hours. If the watch hours are there, the subscribers will eventually follow, right? So my question to you, keeping that in mind, is because a lot of us small creators, it's like that churn to get to 1,000 is such a grind and you think you're never going to get there. So how long, because you're a good case in point for this, how long did it take you to hit that 1K mark?
It took well over a year, and I had to get some help from my friend Don Terrace to make it happen. Like when we were coming up, you could get monetized at 10,000 subscribers. We started in April of 2017. And then we got to February of 2018. YouTube came out and said, hey, we're changing the partner program. Now you need 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours to be monetized. And we had plenty of watch time. We just didn't have a great conversion when it came to subscribers. And so we had about 30 days to make up a gap of about 300 subscribers. And it's tough, right? Because we were there from April to February with only 600 subscribers, but a lot of people watching the videos. And so I didn't know Don from anybody. I was working a consultant job. In between a meeting, I reached out to Don and I said, hey, man, I don't know you. I watch your videos. I don't know if you've ever seen my videos, but I feel like, we're kindred spirits in the way that we make videos. I don't know what to do. Like I'm making $30 a month on YouTube, and I'm working really hard to make that $30, and I don't want to lose that $30. And I'm afraid if I don't figure out how to get these 1,000 subscribers in the next month, then I don't know what I'll do. And I said, hey, could you check out my channel? And if you're moved by it at all, could you just mention it? And it was no pressure. Like if you do check it out and you don't want to mention it, that's fine too. And he did me a solid. He watched the videos and he mentioned it. I think Don had 2,000, 3,000 subscribers at the time, something like that. And over that month, we were able, with that nudge and just continuing to work hard, we were able to get to that subscriber count. The interesting thing about YouTube now and YouTube through the pandemic, and I've kept up with it, I've kept up with you guys investigating the sub buyers, and I've seen the response of the people that got called out. To me, I enjoy the drama of it, but I do feel like a lot of it is a waste of time. The funny thing for me is, like, if you're treating YouTube as a business, it depends what your goals are. If your goals are to build a small business so that you can transform your life to where that you can be a content creator and you can travel the world, then subscribers only matter really at one time, and that's to get the 1,000 subscribers so that you can get monetized. Amen. After that, subscribers are just vanity, right? You get the 100,000 so that you can get the trophy, but what's the trophy mean when it comes to small business? Not much. You get the trophy at 1 million. It would be nice to get it. Certainly you can get caught up in this idea of like, oh, I feel better because I have all these subscribers. But the real thing that people should be beating themselves up over if they want to do YouTube is, are people watching my videos? Exactly. Because if people aren't watching your videos, then they're not being served up ads. And then you're never going to make any money unless you find some other play for monetization, whether it be merchandise or crowdfunding or travel, that kind of thing. But if you want to make a pure YouTube play, worrying about subscribers is just a colossal waste of time after you get to the 1,000, And so, it's kind of funny because I've had the conversation a lot of times. Don gave me the best advice, honestly, because we would talk and it's like, oh, hey, should we release a video at the same time? Are we going to hurt each other, not hurt each other? And I think it was in that context that he said, it really doesn't matter. You're just competing with yourself on a daily basis. Did you make the next video better than the previous video? And how are you? Like, we're in a weird spot right now because, we're continuing to do the cruise news, but, maybe it's not as watched during the pandemic. And so I'm at this weird inflection point where I watch my views, right? And all of a sudden I don't have the same amount every month that I had a previous month. And that's really where I start to strategize about my content. What are people interested in? And then how do I get that presented to people? Because here's my philosophy on YouTube. You can make anything and you have to give people, this was a big transition for us too. Early on, I was very defiant. I was an artist. I'm going to make what I want to make and people will find it. And that equals slow growth, right? So it's the weirdest thing. You'll meet people like, I want to blow up. What do I need to do? Well, you need to make content that people want to see, and you need to make it, package it in a way that people want to watch it, right? You got to get people to click the title, thumbnail, all that kind of stuff. But then you'll get pushback like, well, I don't want to do that. I just want to make what I want to make, and, people will love it. Well,
then it's slow and steady.
yeah. If you want to grow slow, then do that. But if you want to grow quicker, then you're going to have to try to figure out what people want to watch, and then figure out a way to make it yours. And that's really been my transition, probably from right through that, 2019, as we started to go through the pandemic, I really latched onto this idea of what do people care about? What are they watching? It's easy to figure out. Go see what videos have a ton of views on them. That's what people are interested in. And then try to make videos that meet some of those goals for people, and then try to put your own spin on it. And, that's me. Like, I talk about running stuff through the Tony filter. There's really nothing new under the sun, right? That's as old as, the ancient times. Nothing new under the sun. And so really the differentiator is, are you giving people something that they find value in? And then is there some way to hook yourself into it so that they find value not only in what you're giving them, but in you also? And sometimes I'm lucky with that, and sometimes I'm not lucky with that. But that's kind of the creative journey that I'm on.
Yeah, so so you mentioned trends, right? So one of the things that I try to do every morning, I post a couple of shorts every day, and the first thing I do is I check Google Trends. Is that something that you do?
I don't look at trends so much because I'm very focused on cruising. So my research on cruising is to see what's getting a lot of views, right? So, like Gary and Emma and Jay the Ship Life and Ben and David, Lifewell Cruise, all the people that, like, when they put a video up is just blowing up, then those are our cruising trends. Those are the things that people are important with. And, I hate to, I'm stepping on my own toes here. I'm breaking my own heart. Most of those people don't make cruise vlogs, right? Everybody's like, I want to be a cruise vlogger. It took me a long time to realize, for the most part, people don't really care about you on a cruise ship, right? Yeah. And that was the hardest thing, because I wanted to have a successful YouTube business where it could let me do all of these things. And I had to change my idea of, like, it might not come on the back of vlogging, right? And so that's been kind of an interesting transition for me, that if I want to play at that level, if I want to, have a lot of views, then it's probably going to, or I can grow slow, right? You can make people fall in love with you, and we're going to watch every vlog, but you might still, the other thing that's challenging is you got to diversify your pie when it comes to how you build your business. And for me, I'm content with the money that YouTube pays me. I would say that 85% of the media side of our business, 85% of that comes from Google ads. And but that makes me in a very vulnerable position, because YouTube determines how much they're going to charge advertisers. And so just on a whim, your pay could go down to 50%. Like when we went from April to May in 2020, I did my job. I got the same amount of views I'd gotten the previous month, but my paycheck, what YouTube paid me, was like 40 or 50% less, because they weren't able to charge advertisers the same. And I had zero control over that. So I think one of the challenges that, as you're starting, if you're going to, again, at the beginning, you have to determine what you want to get out of YouTube. Do you want to make whatever you want to make? Is it just a great creative outlet? Is it something you want to do for fun? Then none of this matters. But if you want to treat it as a business, you've got to come up with some real business strategies. Like, where are you going to make your money at? Are you going to make your money through ads? Yep. Are you going to make it through selling a product? Are you going to make it through affiliate links? Are you going to make it through sponsorship? Are you going to make it through crowdfunding? Are you going to make it through merchandise? And, probably the best advice at the end of the day is to have a fairly balanced pie across all of those revenue streams. But I'm still sitting here 85% in the Google pie. And it plays on me a little bit, because what if I'm not getting the same amount of views? And what if they're charging advertisers less? So it's 6 years into it. It's, still trying to figure out the nuances of the business aspect of it while trying to nail down the creative side of it. So it's fun. I love it. Again, this is the most satisfied and successful I've ever been in my entire life. And I've had some pretty good jobs. So it's a fun problem to try to solve on a daily.
6 years into it, and the Google pie still tastes delicious. I'm just going to put it out there.
I think it's awesome that you mentioned what you do as a small business, because I know, some people that are content creators in the YouTube space specifically, for some reason, this is specific to the YouTube space. It seems like they don't want to talk about the fact that this is a business for them. You jump over on some other platforms and people don't care to admit that.
Well, people say, like, people feel like it's selling out. I don't know. I think I don't know what to attribute it to, right? It's kind of funny, though, that when people get successful, that they like the money, right? So it's kind of an interesting thing. Why not just like the money at the beginning and then build strategies around to having a great creative process and having a great business? It's the weirdest thing. Like I've seen that. I've weathered that criticism before. Well, when it stops being fun, you know, if it's just a job, then I don't look. My job is to go on cruise ships around the world and point a video camera at my face and make people smile. I'm having a blast. I'm having a blast.
Sign me up all day.
Yeah,
who does not want that job?
You know, I don't know who that would feel like not fun for, but I love it. I love it a lot.
And you can tell, and that's why you grow, is like you're authentic and people see your love for what you do. I mean, it bleeds through the screen, right?
And that's the thing with me. Like I'm passionate about what I do, right? So like you're touching on coming up with a business plan. I want to make YouTube my full-time job. This is how I want to live my life. This is how I want to support my family. This is how I want to do it. So this year I approached things different. I took cruises that are more meaningful for the content. I'm going on new ships. I'm going to new ports. I'm going to new places in Europe. So for me to touch base on things like that, to me, that's part of the business strategy is what are people wanting to see? Well, there are brand new ships that are coming that people want to see. The Carnival Jubilee, the Sun Princess. Like, that's why I booked the trips that I booked in the upcoming months.
I think you have to. Like, you know, we pretty early on, you know, we went Carnival on first cruise, second cruise, third cruise. But by the fourth cruise, when we, you know, and that's probably April to, I think we went on Princess in February of 2018, or, you know, we went April of 2017, Carnival Fantasy, Cruise to Nowhere, Broken Cruise Ship. We got a free cruise out of that. We took that to Cuba in September of 2017. I think in February of 18, we went Carnival Liberty to Freeport. And then we decided along the way that, you know, it just kind of, you know, you get used to just doing the same thing. But then when we realized that we wanted to reach more people, that we would need to diversify the cruise line. And so we went on Princess pretty soon after that, maybe in June of 2018. And so at this point, I went on a long run. I think I went on 36 cruises in a row without ever repeating a cruise ship, or 40 cruises without repeating a cruise ship. And so now at this point, I think that this cruise is coming up in October will be cruise 50 for me since April of 2017 across 10 different cruise lines. And I've been to like most of the continents, right? I haven't been to Africa and Antarctica. So it was really a kind of strategic thing to say, diversity in what we do and where we go and the experiences that we get matters. And again, I've got nothing against loyalty and people grinding out loyalty, but for us, for like the business aspect of it, it made more sense to diversify, try not to repeat cruise ships. Like you said, try to go on new cruise ships. And so this year's been a great year of cruising for me because every experience has almost been a brand new experience. And, but yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. And the wild thing, and the other thing that I'm trying to relearn at this process, like at this point in the journey, is that you really don't need 200,000 subscribers to have a sustainable living. You know, you've got enough of an audience out there at 1,000, 5,000, 10,000. You know, when people are watching your videos that much, forget subscriber count. If your videos are averaging even 1,000 views or 500 views, there's 500 people out there that are interested in your journey. And you've just got to find a way to possibly build your business around engagement with that. Like I said, whether it's merchandising or crowdfunding, like memberships, Patreon, stuff like that, there is a path to a legitimate business without having, you know, a huge amount of views every day, right? You don't have to have 2 million views a month to make the money that you want to make. But at the same time, you know, you can build community smaller and still, you know, meet your goals. So I'm relearning that a little bit.
So I'm going to go ahead and open this up to questions. We can continue to talk as we go.
Yeah, but I mean, you touch base on loyalty, right? Like, I don't know if you know this or not, but that Lido Loca Halloween group cruise on the Mardi Gras, that was my first different cruise on a different cruise line. Now, granted, it's a sister line. Like, I was loyal to Princess since I was knee-high to a grasshopper, but that was my very first Carnival cruise. I fell in love with Carnival. I've been, man.
It's always interesting. Like, you know, the joke that we'd always tell is I have to be faithful to my wife, but I don't have to be faithful to my cruise line. And I like it. I like knowing what else is out there. I hate sitting around going, oh, I wonder what that Virgin ship is like. But now I know, right? Or, what's that Disney ship like? And now I know. So I think it helps inform what I do. And there's, I fell in love with cruise lines that I want to go back on. So it's kind of interesting.
So first thing, I want to recognize the folks that gave super chats. So Larry Thomas, he gave $5, big $5 super chat there to Mr. Naughty. So I skim off the top, so I get 20%.
Well, listen, if you're getting 20%, YouTube's getting 30%. So
you owe me a drink from the drink package on the Booze Cruise, friend.
Don't worry, I got you.
All right, and Marjorie, she gave $5 to the Moonlight Adventures, and she says she loves Tony B from Lido Loca, and she asked that we would enjoy our booze on the Booze Cruise.
Thank you, Marjorie, for the love.
Yes, thank you.
Everybody loves Tony and Jenny. Like let's not even deny it, right? Like everybody loves Tony and Jenny. Tony is one of the people that helped survive everybody through the pandemic, and the awesome Jenny B. If y'all have booked travel through her, y'all know she goes above and beyond with her and her team over there. So I just want to thank y'all for everything y'all have done and everything you've inspired me to do. And if I show up at your house, I'll make sure I bring hot dogs.
Bring that Publix chicken, yeah.
I normally don't throw comments up on the screen, but for this one, I think, this is Solo Cruising and More. And she says, Tony, your cruise news got me through the pandemic. I was informed every day. Thank you.
Yeah, that's, I get that. I didn't expect to get that comment. And when cruising started again, I've had a lot of people say that to me. And it's really given me a chance to reflect on what actually happened during the pandemic. Being able to make those videos every day and connect with people kind of kept me sane. We moved to a new city. We got locked down, and it was just me and Jenny B looking at each other every day, afraid to go out of the house, because we didn't want to get anybody sick and we didn't want to get sick. And so the ability to make those videos and actually be able to use, a lot of times, I would say up until that time, I mostly played the clown. Even like other endeavors where I collaborated, I mostly played the clown. And when the pandemic rolled around, I realized there was a little bit of an absence of processing and analytical processing of what the information was coming at us. And I was able to do it. And so I felt really lucky. I felt I was at the right place at the right time. And I felt like that's what I was meant to do. And then to go and have comments like that, or to meet somebody on a cruise ship that says I was in despair and you helped me get through that despair, it really means a lot. And so, I want to throw it back and say, being able to make those videos kind of got me through whatever could have been the despairing part of the shutdown. So thank you for the very kind comment, and thank you guys for watching, because again, it got me through the pandemic.
I'll tell you, one of the craziest stories real quick. It happened on the Lido Loca group cruise on the Sky Princess. I was sitting there with Tony and Don, and a worker comes up and says to both of them, like, thank you for everything you did during the pandemic, because I got more information from you than I got from the cruise line about the restart and what was going on. So it was wild to hear like workers say, like, we got more information from you and your YouTube channel and all the information you put out than we got from the cruise line itself. And it was just wild being able to just like be like that fly on the wall there for that minute and see what it was like to have that interaction. Man, it was pretty epic.
Yeah,
so Joseph Grudsa, he says he has a question. Why do the cruise lines, and in parentheses he says Carnival, not offer a plain old shopping excursion?
I think they do. I mean, I saw that question earlier. I've seen several excursions that are, shopping. A lot of times it'll be veiled in a walking tour. Yep. But if you dig into it, essentially they're just going to take you to a shopping place. Go to, and I don't know if you've ever tried this, but there's sometimes, I'm a dude. I don't ask for directions, but I've learned to try to use the resources that are on cruise ships. And that excursion desk, shore excursions, their whole job is to sell you stuff, which, and in the pursuit of selling you stuff, they're just a wealth of information. So if you go to the Shore X desk and say, hey, look, I want to go on a shopping excursion. Does that exist? They'll point you to it, even if it's not called the shopping excursion. So, Yeah, I would challenge anybody out there, go and use the resources. And sometimes they won't even sell you an excursion. They'll be like, oh, okay, well, if you want to go to the shopping district, the best way is to go to this cab stand and tell them where you want to go. And it's a great resource that I think is underused. And sometimes, I've been guilty of not using it because I want to figure everything out for myself. But ShoreX and any destination experts on cruise ships, great resource, and their whole purpose is to help you figure out what to do when you're off the cruise ship. So make sure you guys leverage that.
Yeah, and I've become a big fan of MSC, and I know that's like very controversial, right? But we just got off the Seascape and we hit Puerto Plata, San Juan, and Nassau, and in all of those ports they did offer a walking excursion, walk through downtown, whatever, and shopping.
Yeah.
I've never really paid that much attention. We just started doing excursions. Like when we first started cruising, it was just get off and explore on our own, but we've recently started doing them. So, what are your thoughts on the very polarizing MSC?
I'm a big fan of MSC. So I went on the seaside back in 2018. That's the first time we ever met Don. Jenny and I were it was fairly new at that point. That was our first MSC experience, 2019. It was February 2019. Again, in our quest to try different cruise lines, I think at that point we'd been on Carnival, we'd been on Princess, we tried Royal Caribbean, and I think we may have tried the Divina, the celebrity, no, not the Divina, but Celebrity Equinox may have come before or after. But MSC, I like it. Now, I like a diverse vibe, right? I like people of different ethnic. I can't say it. I like different people from different ethnic groups. I like people from different countries, and I found MSC to be a very diverse cruise line, and I like it. I like the fact that you're going to hear different languages because I feel like that's enriching, and I like the fact that the staff wasn't in my face. And I know that's controversial because I don't need somebody to care about where I'm from and be my friend and all that kind of stuff. I'm not opposed to being people's friends, but it's just not my bag, right? And so I'm very happy with the staff to be like, here's your drink. I'll see you later. And not everybody likes that about MSC, but it certainly has a European service vibe to it. So I've been on the Seaside, I've been on the Divina, I've been on the Meraviglia. The reason I stopped going is because,
baby.
Yeah, the reason I stopped going so much on MSC is I do like to go to the casino when I'm on cruises. Like that's part of my cruising experience. And they don't have craps tables on
dice
MSC.
Table.
Yeah, there's no dice table. I've been playing with dice the whole time. There's no dice table on MSC. And over the last 18 months, I've learned how to play blackjack. So I'm getting the itch to go to MSC again and play in their casino. I want to check out some of their new hardware. And sooner rather than later.
So Danny D, the spectacular supporter, she is an awesome mod on our channel and an awesome human being. If you haven't met her, Tony, you should get to know her. She's amazing. But she's asking, what is your favorite place that you've traveled to?
I'm pretty sure I know the answer to that question. That
answer probably changes every time it asks. What is my favorite place that I've been to? I still love going to like my trip to Japan. Like I remember being at a temple in Tokyo and just trying to take in everything that entailed, eating sushi there. It was amazing. But you know what? The day that I recently spent in Glasgow, where I, took a train from some town outside of Glasgow and got on a bus and rode around by myself and found an amazing piece of art in some museum I didn't know about, and then getting my hair cut under the bridge at the train station. I loved it. Like, so the fortunate thing, and I know that we all like to choose favorites, but the cool thing is you don't really have to, right? Like, I love all of these elevated memories. Like if the question becomes, what should you put on your bucket list? It's hard, right? Like you have to know what people are interested in. I was very resistant to Alaska, and now it's on my every year bucket list. I didn't know what to think about New England and Canada. I thought I might like it. I really like it. That's on my every year bucket list. But there's still a lot of places that I would like to go. I want to go to the Med, and I want to go to Southern Europe, and I'd like to go out of Dubai. I'd like to go to Africa. So it's but if I could go and stay anywhere on land for a month, I would probably go to Japan for a month and see what that life is like. It's a very welcoming culture, very technological culture, but it's also still rooted in tradition. So it's really neat to see the juxtaposition of traditional Japanese culture and then, of course, the explosion of technology. So I wouldn't mind going and sitting in that culture, in that area, that geography for a while. I'm a big fan of PewDiePie, right? Like, interesting guy to watch him kind of mature over time. And he's been putting out some amazing vlogs from Japan. And it's like, oh yeah, I could see doing that.
Yeah, man,
I forgot to hit this button because you hit the big word of the podcast, Tony. You said juxtaposition.
Wow. speaking every word to my soul, man, because I reached out to Josh probably like a month ago, and it was actually him and Kurt, and I was like, look, 2025, let's do it. Dubai cruise. And I sent him an itinerary. I was like, let's do it. Like, let's go.
Yeah, I mean, again, of course, the conflict's going on in Israel, and it's heavy, right? And cruising becomes secondary to that, but it is frustrating. Like, I pray for peace for a lot of reasons, but a secondary or maybe a third reason I pray for peace is I want to cruise. I want to cruise to St. Petersburg in Russia. I want to cruise, to Israel. So it's Dubai becomes a little tricky if the region's not stable.
Yeah, that would be, and I've told Mike this. I would really enjoy going over there when there's not conflict going on, because that's the only time I've been able to go to the Middle East is during combat.
Yeah.
But that would be so surreal for me to go back to
like
somewhere.
In a peacetime kind of vibe. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because I did even during combat, and this is I don't mean to go down a military route here, but even during combat, you get to meet local people.
Yeah,
and you find out that. And I heard this today in a podcast, is that even when you're in conflict, you're not in conflict with the people. You're in conflict with an establishment. And, the people are just people trying to survive that have families. And it's amazing to meet them. It really, really is. And it really, if you've ever been off the beaten path in a place like Roatan, Honduras or something like that, you get that same vibe and feeling. You see that they're just struggling to live.
Yeah.
And it really brings you back to what this life is all about, right? And that's spreading positive vibes and hoping that we can elevate the human race in some way.
Yeah.
So I'll stop waxing philosophical.
Let's get to the question from the Tyler show, man. Tyler
let's hit that.
Had a great question, Tony. And
Go ahead,
we
brother.
were talking about this the other day, so let's ask it, right? He says, I'm trying to work on my thumbnails. What are some tips that you found to really get the clicks every time? And I know we've had this conversation, right? YouTube loves clickbait, right? Like,
yeah. Gosh, Tyler, I don't know. And I've met Tyler before, and man, Tyler gets some great footage at the cruise ports.
Yes,
it's so hard. I mean, my strategy is I make my title and my thumbnail before I record any of my content. So every day I line up what I want to talk about. I'll make I look for cruise news and a variety of sources. A lot of times it'll be articles from blogs, those kind of things. I try to only present, to me, I don't feel like I'm a news reporter. I feel like I'm a news commentator. So, I want to curate the news, pick out the stories that I think are most interesting to the general audience, and then put it through the Tony filter. And so if you look at my browser, like my camera is mounted in front of me. There's a screen right here. And so I'll have the articles that I want to talk about kind of lined up in the order that I want to talk about them. And then I have to figure out what the hook is, right? Like I have to figure out what story is going to make people click. And it's hard. I mean, it's the hardest thing to do. You've got to be like, I don't feel like I'm as clickbait. I'm not against clickbait if you pay it off. I'm not even against clickbait if people don't get it, right? A lot of times people get mad because they guessed wrong, right? Like your clickbait would be completely accurate, but they thought it meant something else. And now they're mad because they thought it meant something else. Well, it's not my fault you picked the wrong thing. I just wanted you to see what I had to say about a thing. But I've tried to work hard on being intriguing, not being deceptive. It's hard. I mean, it really is hard to go through that arc of trying to get better about it. I still don't know. Like, today's video, I thought, well, this was interesting. I got walrus people, people will click on it.
It was good, Tony. I watched it. It was
I know,
good,
but it's like, it's got a click-through rate right now, 6 hours into it, down close to 10%. Like if I want stuff to pop, it's got to stay up in the 20s for several hours. And I haven't been able to hit it lately. And so it's a challenge. Like if you go and look at my thumbnails, I've made 2,500 videos at this point, but there's a variety. Like I've tried a lot of different styles. And it's weird, like when you look at your demographics of what age group of people that are watching you, most of mine start at 35. I know Tyler's younger than 35, but I have very few people that are not, less than 10% are 35 or younger. And so knowing that, I can't necessarily make a Mr. Beast style thumbnail, that kind of hooky thumbnail. Like I got to put words on it and I have to be very descriptive of what the content is. I find that those get the click better. But if you listen to the gurus, they're like, don't put any words on there. Let the picture do the talking. But I think at the same time, you have to know who's watching your videos. And so for me, knowing the demo, I'm finding that words, very descriptive words, kind of get it done. And so I struggle every day, but I probably spend the first hour and a half of my day, once I know what my stories are, trying to make a thumbnail that I think's clickable. And then I usually have a backup. If it's not going well, then I'll throw something else up in the first hour.
Yeah. I mean, you talked about the hook and, Blues Traveler gave great advice. The hook brings you back.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, it's true of songs and it's true of this art that we do. Right. So, retention is king. And if you don't have a good hook, you're not going to retain anybody.
Yeah, it's I just kind of, part of me, I went through a whole phase of, do I put my face on the thumbnail? Is my face a big enough draw that people will just come watch the show on a daily basis? And a good amount of people just come watch the show on a daily basis. And then we're back to that conversation against the slow grow versus there's that chart that shows returning viewers versus new viewers. And my new viewers are not as much as like say back during the pandemic. And so I've got a good base audience, and gosh, much love to the folks that come and watch the show every day. Notification Squad. Again, I feel very lucky. And so again, part of it is just being content where you're at. Like, I follow this lawyer that makes primarily live streams. Her name's Emily D. Baker. And she, back to your trending, she only talks about things that are happening in law, right? Like she made a ton of videos on, Amber Heard and all that. I think she has like 15 or 20,000 viewers in a live stream every day. And I heard her speak at a conference one time, and she said, at the end of the day, she's trying to make a magnetic community. And what she means is that people who are supposed to stick will stick, and people that are supposed to be repelled will repel. And sometimes that's hard as a creator to say, I'm okay with people not sticking. And again, if your path is like, I want to grow quick and I want to do this or that or the other, you tend to say, okay, I don't want to repel a lot of people. I want to cast the net wide and be maybe as vanilla as possible to keep people listening to me. But I didn't find a lot of contentment in that. Like I wanted to also kind of color it and have the people that wanted to stick with me. And so I probably alienated some people along the way. But at the same time, I feel pretty good about the people that ride with me. And I don't know. It's an interesting dance to try to figure this out from a creative and a business perspective. But those are some of the things I deal with on the daily basis, and trying to Tyler's question, trying to figure out what the title and the thumbnail is a daily struggle.
And that's great advice. Chastity and I on our last cruise, we came to this realization that when we come back, we are going to take the filter off and we're going to stop handling with kit gloves our YouTube channel, and we're going to do it the way we want to do it, because we were worried about offending people.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And our thought process was, are there a million people in the YouTube verse that think exactly like us? There probably is. So, why try and act like something different, because we're trying to cast that wide net.
Yeah.
And we've saw more growth because of it. So I think that's great advice.
Man, people love genuine people, right? Like genuine, it's just there. Like that's what attracted me to Tony. Honesty, genuine, gave me the information I needed. Like I'm not here to make it like short and sweet and to the point. Like that's Dunkin' Donuts, man.
But
like
the interesting thing too is like the term authenticity or genuineness. I think we all wear a lot of masks, and I think all of those are reflections of our personality, right? Like, do you ever actually get to the core of a person? If I give you a very serious news presentation without jazz hands, and I'm not singing any songs, and I'm not cutting any jokes, and I don't, that's still me. That's still a very authentic representation of who I am. I can be a very serious, analytical person, right? And that's not me, right? And so it's the weirdest thing because you get to decide what you want to be, and it's still you. I don't know how to, and as I think anybody that's met me knows that I am all of those things that you see of me. But it's wild because you can actively decide what mask you want to wear.
Turn on the professionalism or not.
Kind of
I mean, it's yeah, exactly. So Happily Ever Yachty has a question. She's wanting to know if you're going to be on the inaugural Icon Selling. No, I had such a poor time on the Wonder of the Seas. Again, I'm not big on crowds, and I'm just not big on just being in the mix, I guess. When we were on the Wonder of the Seas, there was probably, I don't know how many creators were there. And, there was I wasn't able to just enjoy that ship. Of course, the ship wasn't completely ready at the time. And so we'd go to a show and they'd be like, if you like this show, you should wait till we get all the props, or, hey, sorry, the show isn't ready. And I'm like, and I paid money for it, right? I'm not going on these things for free. And I was like, wow, this is bumming me out. And then on top of that, I had to be on all the time because you're running into another creator that throws a camera in your face. And that's the weirdest thing to me. Like I've said, I'm voice activated. I'm happy to engage with anybody, but I guess one of the pieces of advice that I got it from a PewDiePie video or something like that, and then maybe some other learning that I did along the way, is whenever you want to collaborate with somebody, the goal would be to, both sides bring value or something like that. But I had the weirdest experience, and I won't say where, but I had somebody that was like engaging with me, and they wanted me to participate in something. And, I really thought that they were doing that because we'd had a conversation and they were genuinely interested in me. They wanted to give me something, and they were excited to give me something. And when they came to give me the thing that they were excited to give me, they shoved a camera in my face. And I was like, oh, that's what it was about. And so I don't like situations like that. And so sometimes on these like inaugurals, you just end up running into people that you don't really know, that all of a sudden they want something from you. And it's like, I'm happy to give it, but I don't like being coerced into giving it. And so the ship not being ready, those weird social situations, that kind of thing, I know I will not be on the inaugural, the Icon of the Seas. And of course, the pricing of the thing, I probably won't be on the Icon of the Seas for 4 or 5 years unless
pricing started going down in 2025 once they announced the Star of the Seas.
Okay, so that's good. Yeah. So maybe when the Star comes out, I'll get on the Icon. We might get lucky. Somebody might say, hey, come check it out. I was able to revisit the Wonder as part of a travel agent thing. They gave it to us for free. I was able to go back for 3 days and kind of amend my feelings about the Wonder of the Seas. But most of the time I'm, again, part of my strategy is to pay for as much as I can so I can say whatever I want without any worry about, people calling into question, am I only saying nice things because I got it for free kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't got the Icon.
Like when we were on Margaritaville at Sea, like all of a sudden I got on that thing incognito, I thought, and then all of a sudden they realized I was there, and it turned into a whole different thing.
I mean, and we kept that trip quiet. Like we didn't tell anybody. We kept it pretty quiet. We kept it on the down low. Yeah. So we get off the Mardi Gras, me and Scott, and we head on down to West Palm, and we get on the ship. Next thing you know, Tony's upgraded into the suite. Yeah. We're up on the bridge with the captain drinking cocktails and having hors d'oeuvres on the bridge.
Yeah. Within an hour, somebody's knocking on my door like, I'd like you to meet this guy. And I'm like, I just wanted to come on this thing and hang out.
Yeah, but I tell you what, the pizza on Margaritaville Sea was pretty good. That cheese pool was nice.
I think just because of the robots. Yeah.
Yeah, the droids. Yeah. But Shane says, Tony, you're a born entertainer. Didn't you do a stint on radio?
Yeah, so I went to volunteer state. I went to college a lot. So I graduated in Yeah, I graduated in 1989. I went to Middle Tennessee State University, and I was a math major. I was going to be a math teacher. That was kind of the goal. I love math.
Hold on. You graduated in
Yes,
1989?
89. And I was 17.
I was born.
Yeah. And so I went to MTSU for a semester and dropped out. And then along the way, I got a hankering to go back to school. And I went to Volunteer State. And when I was young, so I'm a big fan of stand-up comedy. I had aspirations to do some stand-up comedy, to do some DJ stuff. And the cool thing is they had a broadcasting program at Vol State. So I did like 2-3 semesters at Vol State in their broadcasting program, just college radio, but I did do college radio. And then, I never, I talked about it before. I got married at 22 after knowing my ex-wife for 20 days or something like that. And all of a sudden, any aspirations I had to be a comedian or a disc jockey, anything, all of that went away because all of a sudden I'm a family man and I got to pay bills now and that kind of thing. So it took until I was 50 and married to the right woman who was so wonderful. It took until I was 50 before I could actually be an entertainer. So I feel very lucky in that aspect. But I paid my dues being a husband and a dad and all that kind of stuff. And so hopefully I don't keel over, right? Like I got to make sure I get healthy because it's like that Alanis song where, isn't it ironic that you finally get to the place where you want to get to and then it's over. So, I don't know. I feel like you've got a good another 20 years run on this thing and we'll see how it goes. But
you got more than 20 years, man. What are you talking about?
Well, I don't know. Like, who knows? Like, who knows how the shift is going to be for creators and that it's an interesting, we're basically kind of in a young model for a vocation, right? Like, YouTube's not 20 years old. And so figuring out how to be somebody who makes money in the digital landscape, how will that shift over the years and what do you do next? That kind of thing. And, I had to get insurance through the healthcare place. It's an interesting thing. It's a lot different than working a 9 to 5, and so it's again, great challenges, most satisfied, most successful ever. But it's an interesting landscape that we're in going forward.
You're muted, Josh. Josh, you're muted.
We can't hear you, Josh.
Yeah, I was bound and determined to do something wrong. So, all right. So we want to, Coach Cruz says, fabulous job, gentlemen, tonight. We want to thank him for the super chat. I can only assume he's speaking to me and Tony because we are the only two gentlemen on the screen. But
hey, listen, that's fine.
So with that super chat, though, I want to make sure that we provide him with his question. And it's really not a question. It's just a comment. So more kind words for the man, Tony B. Tony, you probably don't remember, but before I posted my first video, I emailed asking you some questions. You're kind enough to give me some good advice. I'm the host of Coach Cruz, and I now have 5,400 plus subs.
That's awesome, man. Congratulations. And I'm glad that I was helpful. I really try, I've had some, again, it's all a learning experience and I'm pretty naive, right? Like I pretty much think that all people are good people. I think that until people aren't good to me. And so I love that story that you asked for help. I gave you help and it worked out for you because I've worked with countless people and, some of them are nice all these years later and some people aren't. So it's, I'm glad and congratulations and continued success. And I'm glad that I was able to help that journey.
And that's why people love you, man. I mean, like I was just kind of blown away that you're even here. Yeah. One more super chat.
Mike did bring over some Publix chicken and he's going to build a desk for me here. So it's all a no, I'm just kidding.
I told you, bro, you need me to come help build the desk or change the air filter. Let me know. I'm 5 minutes down the road.
It's kind of funny though. I do still have the same desk from IKEA that I bought 4 months ago here. So
next time I'm in Tampa, I'll take you to Ybor City or something. And
there you go. I've never been to Ybor City. I don't know anything about it. I mean, I've been to the IKEA and the Lego store and the casino there, but other than that, I don't know much.
Ybor City is fantastic.
There you go.
So Sean Barton, thank you so much for the super chat. That goes to Noddy. Yeah. So bad behavior in heavy doses. That's what we bring for sure.
We met Sean and Sonia on one of our group cruises, and they're going to be with us again in October. So I can't wait to see the Bartons. Looking forward to it.
Well, I would be with you in October, but the guy above you, he persuaded me to go somewhere else.
We're going on the OG Booze Cruise.
I was originally scheduled for the Jubilee. Me and Scott were scheduled to do the transatlantic on the Jubilee, bring it across, and then it got pushed back.
Yeah.
Look, Mike, I'm okay with whatever you do, but there might be another part of Lido Loca that was offended that you didn't come on our last group cruise.
I know.
It's not me. It might be.
I know. And I tried calling that other part the other day, and she did not return no calls.
Yeah. Imagine that.
So I know the other part's upset, but if we blame anybody, it's got to be the guy right up above you. But
hey, don't put that on me now. I don't want the other part's heat. You keep that heat.
I'm gonna hit you with a question from Marsha real quick,
sure,
because this is one that I deep down inside want the answer to be yes, because knowledge is power, right? Like, and I know with this, there's a lot of knowledge, but I know there's also a lot of things involved in this. But she says, will you be doing any more mega group cruises with all of the bigger channels like Vloggers Extravaganza?
So Vloggers Extravaganza was an interesting experience. We ended up working with a lot of people that we didn't know very well, and I think we got some great takeaways for it. As you guys know, Jenny and I are taking a little bit of a break from group cruises. I don't think we're going to do anything group cruise wise in 2024. And so for us, another Vloggers Extravaganza is a no. But I don't think I don't think that people aren't going to do it. There may be another Vloggers Extravaganza. I know the people enjoyed it, and I know some of the creators enjoyed it. And so there may be another one, but I don't have any way to say yes or no to that. But I can speak for Jenny and I. I don't know that we'll be a part of another one anytime soon, just because we're trying to reevaluate what we're doing from a group cruise perspective.
So another great supporter from Lovey, Lovey's Fat Life. I know you know Mr. Lovelace.
Yeah, I've never met him. I only know him virtually. I'd like to meet Mike face to face.
Maybe you wouldn't. I don't know, but no, I'm kidding. We love Lovey. So his question, and I can answer this, but I think I'd like for everyone to chime in. Does MSC have good barbecue? He's asking for a friend. So I'll tell you, I had their what they called Texas barbecue on our last sailing on the Seascape. It was not Texas barbecue by any stretch of the imagination, but it was okay.
So for me, I don't really like any cruise ship barbecue. I lived in Nashville, great barbecue in Nashville. Spent a lot of time in Memphis, great barbecue in Memphis. I've been over to Lovey's neck of the woods. I lived in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Oh, that's some good stuff.
Okay, barbecue in Charlotte. It's not Memphis barbecue, but I feel like I can confidently say that I've been disappointed with almost every barbecue I've had on a cruise ship, to the point where I just don't seek it out. Like, I don't, like when I'm looking at barbecue on a cruise ship, I'm like, do they have a jalapeno sausage? Like that, I feel like that's more safe than like a brisket or a pulled pork or something like that. Or you could even get like a chicken or something like that, but it's none of it's ever the same as on land to me. So
I have to, you mentioned Memphis. So have you ever been to Rendezvous?
Rendezvous? Yes. I've never been to the Rendezvous. So to me, it always sounded like a strip club, which I kind of, that was apparently it's on Beale Street near the arena. But I know Jenny B has been to Rendezvous, a company that she worked for. They would have their yearly meeting in Memphis and they would take them down. So she's had the Rendezvous barbecue, but I don't know. I like a dry rub on my rib. And so that's what I think about when I think of Memphis.
So, I want to make sure Meg gets her question asked, because Meg is, in my opinion, the greatest moderator in all of YouTube. And she is selfless in her service to all these different YouTube channels, and she does a fantastic job. First person I called when I found out we were going to have you on here was Meg, to make sure she could cover down for us. So, and this is a good respite
for a long time.
She's a great person, wonderful human. So this is a respite from the travel talk. She wants to know what one show that's on the air right now is worth watching.
It's tough, Meg. So I feel like TikTok has ruined my brain. I feel like I've been so deep into short form content that I'm not able to watch anything of length. I did get all the way through episode 1 of whatever The Boys. So I love comic books. I used to collect comic books. I haven't gotten through any of the Marvel series. I haven't gotten through any of the Star Wars series. I did watch the first episode of The Boys Go to High School, whatever that's called. That's almost too violent for me. Gosh, Meg, I don't even know what a good TV show to recommend is. I've just been watching a ton of documentaries lately, and a lot of soccer documentaries. The one show that you should be watching right now, I do have a recommendation. Lego Masters Season 5 is in full swing. There's 2 episodes available on Hulu. I'm patiently waiting for episode 3 to come out. Episode 2, they built cat houses. So I don't know if that's the kind of show that you were talking about. I don't have anything good for a scripted show just because I don't seem to be able to get into it. We watched Lioness, that guy that wrote Yellowstone, and all the guy that's behind Yellowstone and the Sylvester Stallone in Oklahoma City, the King of Tulsa or whatever that is. He wrote like a special ops thing called Lioness. Okay. We did watch that. We binged that in a day. It was okay. But Lego Masters, that's what I would go with.
So you mentioned you've been watching a lot of soccer documentaries, and you missed my comment in the chat the other day. I know you have like thousands in your chat, but have you watched the great soccer documentary Ted Lasso?
I watched season 1, so I really do like the end of season 1 when he shows the guy up in the dart match. But for some reason, awesome. I couldn't get into season 2. Like, it didn't hook me. And I know they probably had season 3, and now they're done. I listen to a ton of podcasts. One of my favorite podcasts right now is called Fly on the Wall. It's hosted by David Spade and Dana Carvey. Oh, and I love stand-up comedy. I love sketch comedy. I love SNL. And so what these guys do, of course, they're SNL alumni. They have a ton of people that were on SNL. One of my favorite podcasts recently was when they interviewed Jason Sudeikis. That guy's hilarious. I really did enjoy Ted Lasso, and now I probably need to go back and watch the other 2 seasons. But I love that podcast, Fly on the Wall. What other podcasts I listen to? Your Mom's House. Conan O'Brien's got a good podcast. So I'm really, one of the reasons I'm excited to be here is I really love this podcasting space. And I like the idea of just being able to chop it up and talk, that kind of thing. So we got about 25 episodes of Lido Loca podcast, maybe 30 episodes in the can, but we don't have any consistency with it. So we're trying to get back into this podcasting space. So I was glad to be here.
Yeah, definitely like the podcast, man. I'm big with the Theo Vaughn and the Joe Rogan style podcast and all that stuff.
Listen to Theo and Anthony Jeselnik today. That's been a pretty interesting conversation too.
Yeah, I'm like, I've got a touch of that autism sometimes,
Yeah, Theo says the craziest stuff.
Yeah, he does.
One of those people that I can't tell if the mask that he's wearing, I don't know if he's going for laughs. It's interesting listening to him talk to Jeselnik because I can't tell whether he's trying to get Jeselnik to laugh, but he's saying some of the craziest stuff in this podcast. And I'm like, but it's pretty consistent. So
you never know when he switches gears to being full of crap and he's telling the truth.
Well, when he gets Bobby Lee on there too, man, it's insane when he gets Bobby Lee on there.
It's good
but
stuff.
Sandy wants to know, she says, we're sailing on the Jubilee in January. What can I look forward to on the XL class? This is our first XL ship. Big chicken?
Depending what day you're sailing on the Jubilee in January, you might be looking forward to seeing Jenny B and I.
Oh.
We're going to be
That's right. You are doing it in January, right?
January the 20th, I believe, is our sail date. Yeah, so if you've been on the Mardi Gras or the Celebration, it's going to be very similar. But if you've never been on either one of those, Chibang, Big Chicken, the Cool Grand Central, they'll have a different name for it. I think they're calling that central area something different on each of those ships. Good shows. Yeah, to me, I'm really impressed with what Carnival did with that XL class. It still feels like Carnival, but it did seem to me that they took like good elements from some of the other cruise lines, particularly the multi-use spaces from Royal, and really made a nice new modern cruise ship to flagship the Carnival brand. To me, it's the best Carnival cruising. I do like the Vista class. I enjoy the Panorama, the Horizon, the Vista, but I also like those XL class ships.
Oh yeah, Big Chicken.
The cruise vet, he has a question. He says, what is your favorite or what is your preferred length of cruise? Long or short, 7 days or more?
So the longest I've done so far is 22 days. And that was fine. Like, I enjoyed it. It depends. So like if you're going to say, hey, let's do something out of Florida and go to the Caribbean, I could do 3 or 4 days, that kind of thing. But I tell you what, this thing I just did to New England and Canada, it was 10 days, and the first 8 days were port days, and we had one sea day, and then it was over. That thing went by in a blink because it was so busy. I really enjoyed my transatlantic, the 22 days from New York over to Rotterdam. It ended at about day 15 in Rotterdam, and then I jumped on the next one. I just stayed on the ship and went from Rotterdam to other ports to Amsterdam. So all in all, I was on that ship in the same cabin for 22 days. That was great. The first 8 days were sea days on the transatlantic, and then it got really busy with ports over there. But I don't want to live on a cruise ship. This is what I've come to. Like, I read the article of the couple that booked 51 back-to-back cruises on the same cruise ship because it was cheaper than going to the retirement home, which I get that. That's nice. But I don't think I want to be on a cruise ship for that long, right? Like maybe 2 months, 3 months at the most. But I don't think I want to live on a cruise ship. I have 2 rooms in this office here, and both of these rooms are bigger than most cruise ship cabins. And so I like having a little bit of space. I know you have the whole space of the cruise ship, but I don't love the smallness. You either got to pay up and get like a nice suite or something on a cruise ship, or you're kind of stuck in a small cabin. And I don't necessarily like being in such a small space for extended periods of time.
Yeah, you don't want to end up feeling like crew at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, the crew, man, those guys live in a closet. Like, I don't know how they do it. Like, you see a double bunk in a. It was funny. We were watching Kara and Nate, the travel vloggers, video today, and they were on an airline where they had a suite that was all together. You put the 2 seats on the airline together. It was 100 square feet. And that was larger than the cabin that I stayed on that NCL ship when I went to the solo cabin. And I'm like, there's no way I could do a month in this 100 square foot, no window cabin. So yeah. I don't know how the crew members do it, because I think they stay in the space smaller than that, and they double up in it. So
yeah, and they double up in majority of them.
Yeah, it's tough.
So Tony, we have 3 more questions.
Okay.
Are you good to take those 3, or do you need to cut loose?
This. I'll sit here till 10 o'clock. If you guys want to go to 10, I'm okay. So,
and a lot of those crew cabins, man, they double up, but they all share one bathroom. So you got 4 people using one bathroom.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to follow you to the bathroom, Mike. That's what I mean.
I've seen a lot of those rooms with, like Chris Wong vlogs and all that stuff, and he showed like some of those cabins, and I'm like, man, I don't know if I could do that.
It's such a weird thing because this is a challenging topic a little bit. Is, crew members, obviously cruise ships are not flagged in the United States. They're not, most of these cruise companies are not incorporated in the United States. Of course, they do have corporate headquarters, but they're not subject to U.S. labor laws. And so as Americans, like, poverty to us still usually includes a big screen TV and an Xbox, right?
Yeah.
And, the wild thing for me is, like, you meet crew members and they love the opportunity that they're getting on cruise ships, even though as we look at that opportunity where you get to work 7 days a week for 6 months at a time and live in a real tiny cabin, I think a lot of us look at that and go, wow, that's tough. For a lot of these crew members, this is a great opportunity, a greater opportunity than they would have where they come from. And so it's a weird contrast as people who are basically on vacation and these other people that are, trying to work through the best opportunity that they have for themselves. So I still struggle with that. I don't know what, I try to make sure I'm nice and that I tip well. And, but it's a weird vacation type that we jump into because of that dynamic for me. So.
Yeah. And, I'm glad you mentioned that, because 2 things we've learned while sailing. So, first off, all of those folks send almost 100% of their money back home. So make sure you tip, and you tip well. And, everybody's entitled to a bad day. And we try to tip before and after for our room stewards, and, for excellent service, anywhere else that we find it. And that's not us tooting our own horn. That's just saying, hey, help these folks out, because some of them are from places like Honduras and India that have severe poverty. But the other thing is, and what I found funny was when we were on Symphony of the Seas, and this was last year, there was a lot of talk about fairness in pay on cruise ships. So we were talking to a young man from Lithuania that was our bartender, and we're like, so not Lithuania. He was from but one of the Eastern European countries, maybe Ukraine.
I think you said it was Romania.
Was it Romania? Yeah. So,
Romania.
I asked him, I'm like, so how do you feel about you guys and your pay? And he's like, well, actually, I would prefer it stay right where it's at. And he said the reason why is we may start getting Americans taking our jobs because Americans will now work. Right now, most Americans will not do it for the rate of pay.
Right,
but
right.
Their rate of pay is astronomical compared to what they could get in their home country. So a lot of times it's like, us Americans living in a first world country don't understand the third world problem, and we want to help. And it may not be help that we give.
Yeah, that's true. That's the hardest thing. And that's the thing. It's rough for me too, because I still believe, I wish that cruising, all the costs were included. Like I didn't have to decide how much to tip somebody, because again, I just want to go travel. I don't want to figure out, labor and all that kind of stuff. But we do find ourselves in that situation a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. So Lovey, and this goes back to the topic that you talked about earlier on age percentages of viewers. He says most of his are 35 to 60. What do you experience?
Yeah. So, shoot, I can pull it up. Hold on. I'll give you the exact percentages in just a second. Hold, please. Let's see. For the last 28 days, the audience, what does it look like demographic wise?
It looks a lot better than mine.
All right. So I've got 13 to 17 years old, 0%. 18 to 24 years old, 0.7, but not even 1%, 0.7%. 25 to 34 years old, 4.4%. 35 to 44, 11.7. 45 to 54, 22.3. 55 to 64, 29.5. And 65 plus is a third of my audience, so 31.4.
I wouldn't have figured that. I wouldn't have thought that at all.
Oh yeah, I'm big. I'm big with people older than me because I'm the youngest, right? That's the wild thing. So like I try to tailor my pop culture references along these age demographics, because for me, part of the way that I try to invite people to come back to the videos are by establishing connection points, right? So cruising hands, it's a connection point. The hey, that's a connection point. Some of the things that I do is really all about making connection points. And, the wild thing is I do kind of get bored with my own jokes sometimes. So like things will fall out of favor in my mind. Like I don't punish people anymore, but a lot of people love the punishment. So it's a weird thing. And again, my thumbnail design comes a lot with this idea of what do people, 30% of the people are 65 plus. What do they need from a thumbnail? It's going to be different than what, a young person needs. So it's interesting when you look at those kind of things. And of course, more women watch me than men. I hate to say that in front of my wife, but I'm big with the ladies. So how about that?
You're good looking.
She's never going to come get me. She's never going to come get me now that I say that.
I got more men watching.
Hat you got on backwards, man.
78%.
Dig it.
Well, the problem for me is I usually take a nap in the afternoon, so I have hat head. So,
Cruising on the High Seas has a question. He actually has like 3 questions in here, and one of them I think he'll have to go back on the replay to get, because I don't want to ask you to repeat that one. But Rob, he talks a little bit about growth in the early parts of the podcast, but he wants to know, how do you get on so many cruises per year?
Pay for them. Yeah. So basically,
I thought there was going to be like a sentimental shout out. Like, I have the world's best travel agent in the world. She saves me tons of money.
No, basically, I make a certain amount of money every month, and we take a chunk of that money and buy travel. Right? It's for us, it does become part of our business, a business expense to do some of this travel, and so that's it. I mean, it's it's all in the pursuit of creating content and having more knowledge when it comes to travel, and just go on as much as you can. I'm not advocating people going into debt or anything like that. If you can go on 1 cruise a month, but I did a whole series of videos early on when we were taking a lot of cruises. I think what I said, I guess the better answer is figure out a way to save more money so that you can spend on cruising. So cut out your dinners and your coffees, and make sure you're not oversubscribed to stuff, that kind of thing. Start finding $10 a month, $15 a month, $20 a month somewhere in your budget where you're just wasting money, and then start channeling that and book a cruise and then start paying your cruise that way. Get yourself a side hustle, whether it be YouTube or Uber or anything like that. Baby. Find some other way to make a couple $100 extra a month, and then go ahead and spend that money that way. Or, in your current job, try to figure out a way to level up your skills so that they pay you more. It's just those are the basics for anything that you want to do that costs money in life. The money's there somewhere. Either you got to go make it a new way, you got to save it a different way, you got to cut it out of your budget a different way. But it's all about prioritization. And if you want to go cruising more, then start figuring out where you're spending your money. And if there's anywhere you can spend less of the money and put it toward cruising, do that. Or if you don't have any extra money, figure out a way to go make extra money one day a week or something so that you can go cruising more, Carousing.
And here is the last question we'll throw at you. Lovey says, everyone is at the mercy of YouTube. They could change the percentage at any time. Do you think that they could charge you at some point?
Yeah, it doesn't make their business model would have to change drastically. YouTube is essentially a TV company. They want to sell advertisements in the way that traditional broadcast TV does, and that's how they make billions and billions of dollars. So they need content. Every time something starts to pop, TikTok starts to pop, and creators are like, oh, can I go to TikTok? Can I make money on TikTok? Well, YouTube responds by saying, well, we got short form over here too. We got some reels. And so it really is, there's no way that you would be able to spin up production companies and generate the billions of hours of content that is pouring into YouTube on a daily basis. For a company to have to do that, they couldn't do it. I don't think YouTube would ever charge you to use the platform, but they could. I can't predict the future, but I believe as long as their model is selling advertisement on ad-friendly content, they're not gonna make you pay to put your ad-friendly content, in my opinion. But you never know. That's why you have to be diversified in your revenue sources. You almost have to treat it like if YouTube went away tomorrow, how would I still get my bag? And I don't think many of us consider that. I know if YouTube went away tomorrow, I would struggle. I'd have to figure out something to do, right? It's one of those things. You got to make a plan. You can't spend all your money on cruises. You got to save some money, make some investments, that kind of stuff, and almost treat it like if it could go away tomorrow. But I had this conversation with Matt from Royal Caribbean blog. I said, we live in kind of a charmed time. Matt, do you ever worry that this will go away? And he goes, I don't think that talking about cruises will ever go away. How long have we been talking about baseball? He goes, we've been talking about baseball. So he goes, I don't think it'll go away, but the mechanism for how we monetize those conversations around cruising could change, could go away. And so I think if you're just like any other small business, you have to be doing risk analysis to understand if a drastic part of your business changes, like all of a sudden you got to pay to be on YouTube. How would you adjust in that scenario? But I think right now what you see, if you watch what YouTube is doing, they're continually trying to position themselves as the place for content creators to go, not only to be seen, but also to get paid in a way that I don't see any other platforms doing. So I think it's a great question, but right now I feel like YouTube's still the best game in town for monetizing content.
I think it's similar. I really think, Tony, and you may disagree with me on this, but I don't think that cruise creators have even scratched the surface, because I think that there is as big a community and as big of an audience for the cruise community as there is for Disney. And, why do we not have channels that are as large as some of the Disney creators is beyond me. And maybe it's just because we haven't hit on the correct formula yet.
Well, I don't know. Like, I've thought about this a lot. Of course, if you look at my demographic, a lot of it, 30% of it is 65 or older. So if we go back a couple years when really nobody had 100,000 subscribers and they weren't getting crazy views, the idea in my head was like, well, there's just not a lot of old people, me included. There's just not a lot of old people on YouTube. And so how do we reach into this? So I think at the heyday before the pandemic, we had 28 million cruisers. I think that was like 28 million people went on a cruise, which was exponentially up from the previous years. And I think we'll get back to that again. So the question becomes, as creators, how do we get more people? How do we let more of those 28 million people know that there are people on YouTube that are making cruising content? And I always said this in the beginning when I was small, like we would, you know, I constantly wanted to work with people because the broader the net went out, it was really a strategy for me. Let's work with everybody, and you know, people would say, hey, how do I do this? And I'm like, you just start doing it. Make some videos, tell some friends, tell your community, that kind of thing. Because I believe the only way that we're going to see huge growth in the cruising space is to get more people in the space. But yeah, I don't know if we'll ever be as big as Disney creators, but you're starting to see it. Like, you're seeing growth happen quickly. Like Emma, when she puts a video up, she's getting a decent amount of views on every video. It might be once a week or once a month, but you're starting to see those kind of views that happen on other travel creators. All of a sudden you're getting 1 million views within a week or something like that. You're really starting to see that happen with those kind of cruising travel film type things. So I think it is a good indicator that cruising will be exposed to a broader amount of people. But yeah, we're really small potatoes. I mean, we're just a sub niche of travel, really. Yeah. And you know, when it comes to views, I don't know, like my monthly view count goes anywhere between 1.8 million, and I've had at least 1 or 2, 3 million view months. But if you compare that like to some larger creators, you know, it's, you know, 20 million, that kind of stuff. So we're really kind of small potatoes in that thing.
Yeah. I hope that Naughty hasn't got Bell's palsy or something up there. He's frozen.
Oh, he's frozen.
I hope he's frozen. Yeah. So I don't want to cut until he gets back on here, but yeah, I mean, that's just interesting. I've got a fun question for you here from a Muncie channel. So I'm assuming I missed this the other night, but he said that there was a question from a couple weeks ago that says, which WWE wrestler do you think would represent each cruise line?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I kind of posed that question. I never really thought about it myself. That is a great question. Let's see. I don't know. So let's think Carnival. I do think like the Flash of Carnival. I think Hulk Hogan would have like, I think yellow outfit Hulk Hogan in his heyday, Hulkamania Hulk Hogan. I think he would have been a good representation of Carnival. I think the Nature Boy Ric Flair, I think Celebrity would be up there a little bit. I find Celebrity to be a mature cruise line with a little bit of flash. I don't know who would be good for Royal. Royal's kind of family friendly. Maybe John Cena would be Royal. I don't know. It's hard to say, but that's a great question. I did get a John Cena tattoo. I don't know if you can see it, but
I can't see it. That's a great one. That's a good one.
So
yeah, I mean, so let's think about Virgin for a minute. You know, would that be like Buddy Love or Brother Love? Maybe
could be like Brother Love. I don't know. For Virgin, I do think like I don't know, maybe like Gold Dust, like something that's out of the norm. Yeah.
So that's funny. It's funny you brought that up. So my wife and I, we like to sit on the Lido and people watch, as most people do. And we have this game. I'm going to show it on one of our videos where I scream hey to people and see who responds. But we saw a lady and she was dressed. They had to have designed this one piece off of Gold Dust. They had to. It was exactly like his outfit or his costume or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Tights. And so, you know, she walks by and I look at my wife and I go, and she's like, what are you doing? I was like, it's Gold Dust. And so we saw her several times through the day, and but yeah, it's funny. It's fun. So there's Mike. All right. So let me get this situated here.
Internet done kicked me out, bro. It was like
you're trying to get me to move to Tampa, and it looks like your internet is not great there.
Nah, we're having some storms here tonight. It was raining pretty bad on my way home.
It's a rainy night.
I have Spectrum, and it rhymes with rectum, so I hate Spectrum.
That's what we got here in Florida too. So
they're like, hey, you've got this fantastic upload speed. No, not so much. Not so much. All right, so fantastic time, great interview. man, it went better than expected, to be honest. I was a nervous wreck the
Josh
whole day.
put out the live stream before it even got started.
I'm good for that. That's character, right? That's character on the channel. But thank you so much for coming on. And any parting words you would like to put out to the people?
No, I just, well, first of all, thank you guys for having me. I really appreciated the opportunity to talk to you guys. And thanks everybody for all the great questions. And look, you know, we're all very fortunate that for the most part, we get to go cruising and we live this cruise life. And so I'm just glad to be a little bit of it. And, you know, thanks everybody for coming out. So much appreciation to you guys and much appreciation to everybody watching and listening. Thanks a lot.
So can I have a special request before we end the show?
Yeah.
So can you do the cruising and give
Not a
them
clown, Mike. Not a clown.
Give them a punishment. I know you don't do the punishment no more, and that's one thing I look forward to. Listen,
look.
I had a PB week last week. Okay, I went 5 straight days as first comment squad leader.
That's right.
I retired. I went into retirement like Tom Brady. I came back out of retirement on Monday, and I was in 2nd place.
Did you
I'll do you one better, Tony. Can you give us a shameless plug that we can turn it? Never mind. I'm kidding.
Mike, did you finally figure out that you can't type squad leader, or I won't type squad leader?
Yeah, I did figure it out. That's why I stopped typing squad leader.
That's right. It's no fun to give a boom squad leader to somebody that already typed it for themselves.
So I went into the
cruising. That's all I'll give it. So let's see. Well, of course, I do it in my call to action. But look, if you want to stay up to date with everything going on in cruising, make sure you check out the Peer-to-Peer Podcast weekly on your favorite podcast platform and here on YouTube.
You're the man. You're the man. Thank you so much. Thank you to the Peer-to-Peer crew, the Moonlight Mafia, and the Naughty crew for showing up in mass, and obviously the Lido Loca crew. So, see, I said it, Lido Loca, the Lido Loca crew.
Shout out to the Loca fam. Much love to the Loca fam.
Loca fam. So,
yes, Loca fam.
Thank you all so much, and we are out.